Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thanks for returning. Today I have stone number 242. Now this piece of Welo, however you like to call that, Ethiopian crystal rough comes from Carlyn over at Carlyn's Colorful Creations. Please head on over and check out her channel, watch videos, hit the like, subscribe, all of that delicious stuff. Now look at how beautiful this green is. Bits of red. Now this piece is 16.7 by 11.7 by 7.5 millimeters. Let's weigh it up and see what it weighs really quickly here. It looks like 5.3 carats. So that's pretty good. That's a nice size, but closer inspection, there's a little bit of sand here on the outer surfaces. Some of that extends a little ways into the stone. The biggest issue here is just the shape. This thing is so convoluted. There's a couple of deep pits within the crystal that are lined with sand. A couple of valleys here, likely from fracturing when mined. And honestly, I could do this as a free form, but it's going to just be a pain to try to get it to a state where it can be easily polished. And I fear most of this will probably be eaten up in that process. So my plan, and I'm sticking to it, this pit here, and then on the other side, this pit here. I think if I cut, so I have this bit, and then I will have this other side, and perhaps, just perhaps, if I do this well, I can get a pair that are the same size or very similar. So stick around and we're going to get right on that. But let's get a little bit closer look at all this beautiful color first. All right, here you can see where I've drawn a line on this piece of rough, and I used a pencil with Ethiopian rough since it absorbs water and oil, a marker that's water and oil based, risks soaking into the crystal, and I don't need that. So ideally for this side, I want to cut through the lower part of the cave there. Hopefully I hit it towards the lower bit. And on this side, I want to avoid the cave as much as possible. And hopefully this way I will maximize the amount of available crystal for both halves. But I will not know until I get it done. So I will meet you at the cutting blade. All right, everyone, we are at the cutting wheel. Are we ready? Let's double check here. All right, let's go for it. All right, here goes nothing. Whoops. And we're done. How did I do? Looks like I came pretty close. Looks pretty good to me. But let's get a couple close-up shots before the water all soaks into this thing. And we will return. All right, everyone. While the tomato sauce is bubbling in the background, I will have a little opportunity to start with the 600 grit sintered Nova burr, sintered diamond burr. And I'm just going to start by removing the crust and junk off of this first piece. There is some sand that goes pretty deep in here. That could be an issue. But let's get this underway. Yeah, we don't need that much water coming out. we are taking off as much of the sand as possible. You can see how deep that bit is. I'm also smoothing surfaces to get a better look, and I have to figure out what kind of shape I want to make, how it needs to face. I mean, obviously, I have the best chance for a dome on this side, I think, but that odd shape is going to cause some issues. And let's continue. Alright, this is probably where I want to stop and work on the second stone because I want to take time to look at this sand. Gonna have to come in quite a bit from that angle. This will make an oval. Just how big is it going to be? Let's move on to number 2. This one has a lot more clean area, but it has the caves. Alright, so this one, alright, there's still a little bit of sand. This big cave here, little remnants of the other cave on this side. So I may have to cut this flatter surface here up to the point where those dimples aren't there, but I'm going to take a break, take a look at that, just to make sure I'm going to be doing the right thing. So on piece A, and using the magnification and the flashlight, it gives you a pretty good view inside the stone. There's no internal cracks in this, and it's pretty clean inside. You can see, though, the sand does protrude up from the bottom here, and I still have the caves to deal with, which means I'll be taking quite a bit off the bottom to get past the sand and then level off the caves. Piece B, on the other hand, is a bit more of a problem. First, the top has a huge variation in the surface height. And these sand pits on the side, well, they become a pretty huge issue for me, and honestly, they cause me a lot of grief. And then we have this crack here on the bottom on the left, and then that huge bit of sand on the lower middle. That all has to come out. So that will reduce the thickness of the stone even more. So piece A, not a brilliant flash there. I can't. There's no words. All right, a little bit of an indentation there still. The back's looking pretty good. This will be the back. A little bit of sand in the center. A little bit of a crevice there. With this shape, however, I may cut the tip of that off. That'll make turning this into an oval shape a little easier. So one issue if I do cut that, it's going to significantly reduce the amount of red that comes off of this thinner part. Well, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't. In fact, I was frustrated quite a bit. So at this point, I just shoved these things in a jar until later. Much later.
10 weeks later.
I ended up coming back to these and leveling off the bottoms enough to put them on dop sticks. Now, this piece B, you can see that sand is still very present, and the shape is a bit wonk. I'm going to have to bring it in quite a bit to get rid of that sand, honestly. And that makes me a little sad. So I've got these two stones dopped up. We have the 280 grit burr. Let's go ahead and start it up. This experience left me pretty frustrated and demoralized. So I skipped recording any more of the process and just decided to get to the end of the video because it is getting to be a pretty long video. Opalbot, please fetch the finished stones.
Here you go, Opal guy.
Thanks, Opalbot. I don't know how I get along without you. Here we have the finished pair of stones. They look pretty good, but before we take a closer look, let's recap. In the rough, stone 242 weighed 5.3 carats, was 16.7 by 11.7 by 7.5 millimeters. I got this from Carlyn. It comes from Welo, Ethiopia, and the cost was free. Now, after being cut, piece A weighed 2.55 carats, was 11.5 by 8.5 by 8 millimeters, and piece B was 2.45 carats, 10.5 by 7.7 by 7 millimeters. Finished, piece A weighs 0.75 carats, is 7.8 by 5.2 by 3.6 millimeters, and has a high dome. Piece B weighs 0.45 carats, is 7.8 by 4.2 by 2.2 millimeters. It has a medium dome. For the good, well, both are ovals with good shape. They both have a great polish. One is a high and one is a medium dome. They're both beautifully colored crystal, and they're clean-ish. For the bad, well, I don't really think there's anything I could say that is bad. And for the ugly, well, there's some chips on the bottom that happened when I removed the stone from the glue. I have to work on that. I think they're ugly, and there's also a defect I didn't remove, and you can see the cerium in that. I'm not sure how that will look once it's set. You won't see the cerium, certainly. And for piece A, well, it looks pretty good. There's some pitting, and there's one area with some cutting marks. I also probably should have worked that one a little better, and you can see there on the bottom another defect. As for the crystals being clean, both stones have little flecks of black in them that reminded me of pepper. But certainly it's remnants of the volcanic ash in the fields from which this opal forms. So what is the value of these stones? Well, the cost to me was free. What is it worth? Well, I think maybe $40 to $50 for the pair is a fair price. So that's it. Let's go ahead and take a last look at these beautiful little stones before they complete their journey. parting, I would just like to say if you're interested in trying to cut opal, give it a shot. After all, if I can do it, you can do it. And now their journey is complete. Thanks for watching. Until next time.